Ever felt like a data science interview is, well, less of a chat and more of an obstacle course? You're not alone. In this explainer, we're going to break down that gauntlet. We're not just looking at the what you'll be asked, but the why behind the questions, and most importantly, how you can absolutely nail every single stage to land that job. Yeah, this quote from Analytics Vidya really hits the nail on the head. It's just not about being a coding whiz anymore. Landing a data science role has totally changed. Hiring managers are looking for something more, someone who can do a lot more than just crunch numbers. So what are they really looking for? Let's dive in and find out. All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with why interviews are so much more than code. Then we'll tackle the big three: behavioral questions, the tech gauntlet, and the business case. And we'll wrap it all up with a solid prep strategy to get you ready. Okay, first up, why aren't interviews just about code? I mean, seriously, what's with the change? The answer's pretty simple, actually. The job itself has gotten bigger. You're not just a model builder anymore, you're expected to be a real business problem solver. So here's what they're really looking for. Your technical skills, that's just your ticket to the show. It gets you in the door. But what really makes you stand out is, well, everything else. Can you see a business problem and know how to attack it with data? Can you explain your super complex model to the marketing team without their eyes glazing over? And what do you do when the data is messy or just weird? That stuff right there is what lands you the job. All right, let's get into those behavioral questions. You know, the ones everyone kind of dreads. The whole point of these is actually pretty straightforward. They believe your past actions are the best predictor of your future performance. So they're digging deeper than just your resume. They want to see how you think and solve problems when things get tough. Okay, picture this. You're in the hot seat, and the interviewer leans in and says, "So, tell me about a time you faced a real challenge." Classic, right? They're testing you, seeing how you handle pressure. So how do you give a great answer without just wandering off topic? The secret weapon here is a framework, and honestly, the best one is the STAR method. It's a super simple but really powerful way to structure your answer. It helps you turn a messy real-life experience into a clear, compelling story. Let's break down exactly how it works. Check this out. This is a perfect example of STAR in action. See how it's not just a dry list of things you did. It's a story. It has a beginning, the situation, a middle, the task and action, and a killer ending, the result. And that result, it's got numbers. Engagement climbed by 15%. Boom. That shows you're not just churning out code, you're making a real impact. Okay, deep breath. Now for what feels like the main event, the technical gauntlet. This is where they throw everything at you. Stats, programming, machine learning, the whole shebang. It can feel intimidating for sure, but trust me, with the right prep, you're gonna walk in there and crush it. And yeah, the list of potential topics is long. We're talking about everything from fundamental stats concepts like the central limit theorem to practical SQL joins and core machine learning ideas. The key thing to remember is they don't want you to just spit back definitions. They want to know you get it. You understand the why behind it all. Okay, so if you're going to prep for one specific technical question, make it this one: the Bias-Variance Trade-off. Seriously, it's a fundamental concept in machine learning. Nailing your explanation for this shows the interviewer that you truly understand the art and science of building a good model. This visual explains it so well. Look, as your model gets more and more complex, that's the horizontal axis, your bias goes down. See that blue line dropping? Great, but your variance goes up. That's the orange line climbing. The goal, the absolute sweet spot, is right there in the middle where that total error, the red dotted line, is at its lowest point. It's this constant balancing act, and getting it right is the key to making a model that actually works on new, unseen data. Here's a great way to think about it. A high bias model, that's underfitting, is like a student who barely glanced at the textbook. The model is just too simple, it missed all the important patterns. On the other hand, a high variance model, that's overfitting, is like a student who memorized every single word in the book, including the typos. It knows the training data perfectly, but it's useless on a new test because it learned all the noise. Your job is to build a model that's like the A+ student who actually understands the material. All right, now for the part of the interview that, in my opinion, really separates the good from the great: the business case study. This is where you prove you're more than just a tech expert, you're a strategic partner. They're going to give you a real, messy business problem and basically say, "Okay, smarty pants, what do you do?" And here's the thing you have to remember for a case study like this. They're not looking for some magic perfect answer. There probably isn't one. What they are looking for is your thought process. How do you take a big, vague question and break it down into something manageable? How do you think about metrics? How do you plan your analysis? It's all about showing them how you think. So, what's the playbook for a question like this? It's a 4-step process, and it's gold. First, always clarify the goal. Don't just jump in. Ask questions. What does influence even mean here? Sales? Clicks? Then, define your metrics. How are you going to measure this influence? Get specific. Third, figure out what data you need. Tweet content, timestamps, user info, lay it all out. And finally, propose your plan of attack. Maybe a regression model, maybe some network analysis. Follow these steps and you'll look like a total pro. Whew, okay. We have been through a lot. The behavioral questions, the tech deep dive, the business case. Now, let's bring it all home. In this last section, we're going to talk strategy. How do you actually prepare for all this? Because good preparation isn't just about knowing stuff. It's about walking into that room with confidence. So here are my top tips to absolutely nail it. 1. Get your stories straight. Have a few key projects ready to go, framed up perfectly with the STAR method. 2. Tailor those stories. Read the job description and make sure your examples scream, I am the perfect person for this job. 3. Numbers, numbers, numbers. Quantify your results. Improved accuracy by 8% is way better than made it better. 4. Show you're a learner. What did you take away from that project? And last but definitely not least, practice. Say your answers out loud. Talk to a friend. The more you say it, the smoother it'll be when it counts. So here's the final takeaway. Think of the interview as a data set about you. The interviewer has all this raw data, your resume, your answers. What's the story you want them to see in that data? Because when you stop just answering questions and start telling a compelling story about your value, your skills, and your potential, well, that's when you don't just get a job offer. That's when you kickstart the next chapter of your career.